Welcome back to another edition of the Edge podcast. Publisher Brenden Slaughter here for BeaversEdge.com, joined by Beaver's Edge senior writer Ryan Harlan. We're coming to you guys about halfway through week 2 of Oregon State's fall camp as the Beavers are preparing for the August 30th date against the California Golden Bears at Reser Stadium. We got a lot to get into on this edition of the podcast. We'll be recapping what we've seen the first couple days of practice, getting you ready for the end of the week, and most importantly, Oregon State's first scrimmage, which will be taking place on Saturday. We'll be getting you guys all geared up and ready for that. Again, pleased to welcome you guys into the podcast. Thanks for everyone for tuning in, and check out all of our content over at BeaversEdge.com. Ryan, welcome back to the podcast, man. Good to see you. Good to be back talking some Oregon State football. We've been through 7 days, 6 days that we got to see, I should say, with one closed day in there. And, so far there's a lot to kind of dive into, but my biggest takeaway early on, Ryan, and I noticed it day one, is just how focused this team is. And that's not to say that they weren't focused, say, a year ago. I think they were just kind of still getting their sea legs, so to speak, with the new coaches, the new system, settling into year one of Trent Bray. And it just really seems like there's a level of calm, level of veteran, and just like hey, we're here to do business. And, that's the job. It seems very businesslike. I've been very impressed with that early on.
Yeah, no, likewise as well too. I mean, the first two practices, you could kind of tell this was very different from a year ago, and I think that's also probably just a continuation of what we saw in spring football as well too, where the intensity was a lot different in spring compared to also a year ago too, where it was kind of, I think, just feeling things out, feeling what the new quirks and intricacies were with Trent Bray being the head coach, and also I think adjusting now at that point to life after the Pac-12 as we kind of knew it. But I do think, though, that this group had realized from last year, they're like, hey, look, like this isn't what we were capable of. We left a lot of meat on the bone, and we're looking to improve and get a lot better than what we did last year. And I think those first two practices especially kind of have set the tone and have carried over, especially too, into kind of middle of week 2 of fall camp as well. So I really do think that this is something that's been spearheaded by the veterans on this team, wanting to get better at every position group across the board. But also, too, I think it's the coaching staff as well, getting a little more comfortable in their roles, having a year of experience under their belt. And I think you're seeing the byproduct of that through these first 2 weeks.
Absolutely. And again, there's a lot for us to get into. Ryan and I are going to talk about kind of the big position group that everyone is curious about, the offensive line. Ryan caught up with Mike Cavanaugh and a couple offensive linemen today as we're recording this podcast on a Wednesday. I'll be going live to you guys on a Thursday. And again, if you've missed anything so far, we've got it all covered for you guys on the BeaversEdge.com homepage. You just scroll down slightly, you'll see our fall camp headquarters. That's going to be everything that we've done. Beaver's Edge has been at all practices that you can be at so far this year. We've got some great content, everything from our daily practice reports to our weekly interviews to practice highlights, something that Ryan and I have been tweaking and working on this year to give you guys a look at what we're seeing during practice, during the periods we're able to shoot. Notebooks, kind of diving into how the team is wanting to improve this year, and a whole lot more. And again, right now we've got a amazing deal going on at BeaversEdge.com where you can get our premium coverage and you can join Beaver's Edge for $1 for your first week and enjoy a complimentary year of The Athletic included in your membership. It's an awesome partnership that On3 and The Athletic have going on, in addition to getting coverage for BeaversEdge.com, which this time of year, Ryan, why would you not want to have the absolute Oregon State, coverage? And I got to give credit to Beaver Sheets on Twitter after day one of practice last week. Threw out a video, or threw out a screen grab of me, Ryan Harlan, and Brogan Slaughter, and was like, listening to these guys or watching these guys for the next 30 days. And I'm like, absolutely. Like, we are your number one stop for Oregon State coverage. Between me, Ryan, and Brogan, you're not going to find better coverage of Oregon State anywhere. And I must say, it's really cool to kind of see some of the new tools that we have with On3, and we continue to hope to bring you guys more and more features as time goes along. But enough about that. You can check that out at BeaversEdge.com if you're interested. Again, get full access to BeaversEdge.com, $1 for your first week, and enjoy a complimentary year at The Athletic. You can find that over at BeaversEdge.com, all included in your membership. So, Ryan, let's go ahead and dive into the offensive line. I want to start there, and then we'll kind of trickle into the rest of the offense and switch gears and go defense. But getting into the offense itself, Ryan, let's get into that offensive line. We knew coming out of spring that it was going to be still a work in progress, and I think that's a very apt term considering Coach Kavanaugh said the exact same thing today, and I want to get your thoughts from him. But just so we can set the stage for Beaver fans early on, still some key players who are not yet fully back into the mix as far as health, so they're not quite 100%, but they're getting a little bit better every day, including a guy like Tyler Volton, who Ryan caught up with today, who, again, was a starter last year before he had his injury and definitely going to be looking to get back into the swing of things soon. But again, very large body on a knee, and I know the Beavers are wanting to handle that situation carefully with T. Volt and some other guys there on the line. But overall, Ryan, your thoughts on the line? So from what I've seen so far from my days at practice as well, the body situation is better, which is great because spring it was slim pickings. It was a rough unit. You know, having Van Wells back out there is big. We're still going to get more guys, and while it is a work in progress, considering his track record, I have a lot of confidence that Cav is going to have 5 guys that can play Oregon State offensive line football come August 30th.
Oh no, I also do too. And even too, Coach Cav said, "Hey, look, like just because a guy's a tackle and plays on, say, on the right side of the offensive line, doesn't mean he's going to play there. Like he can play guard, he can play left tackle, he can play left guard. It's never like I would say a guy is truly locked into one spot there, and I think those guys in that room definitely agree with that. But I will say, like you, the body situation is a lot better. I mean, having Van Wells back is huge at center, and then also too, I mean, you get Jacob Strand back
Right.
practicing. You also get Tyler Morano, who hasn't practiced in a while, has some rust to shake off, but he's now healthy. He's getting back in the swing of things. So that really helps too along the tackle situation as well. But there's still 2 guys that we haven't seen, Volton and then also JT Hand, transfer from Arizona,
Right.
yet to practice in significant team reps. But I do think though that they have some times where they do flash, they do look really solid as a unit together. But as Coach Cav said, the biggest issue for them is consistency,
Hmm.
technique, and understanding their responsibilities within the scheme and their for every play that they're blocking. That's really what it comes down to and what it boils down to. And he's really preached that consistency aspect a lot, and that's especially what he said to us today as well too. So that's something there where they're trying to get that down and trying to be, on every single play consistent in both pass blocking and run blocking as well. Because this time around, compared to previous years and previous other offensive line units, I think this group has the potential to be one of the more balanced offensive lines that Oregon State has had in quite some time. I mean, you have a guy like Malik Murphy back at under center at QB, where the passing game can be a bit more explosive. You can get
Right.
down the field a lot more compared to run blocking really well, which obviously an Oregon State offensive line is really good at doing.
Right.
But like it's been also very like one dimensional in recent years as well too with that because the pass blocking hasn't been great. At times we saw a lot of that last year and also too in 2023. But I think this group, will be able to figure it out. I am really curious to see though, how this group kind of holds up in the first scrimmage,
Hmm.
because that I think will tell us a lot about where this group is at. I know Cav wants to have 5 guys at least 2 weeks before the opener against Cal on August 30th. And that's where he's going to kind of say, like, these are my 5 guys. They may not be the 5 guys that are along that offensive line come week 6, week 7, but have at least a front 5 that you can rely upon to keep Malik Murphy protected and upright against
Right.
Cal week one. And I think it's, once you get probably Tyler Volton back and JT Hand, I think this group is in a lot better shape. There's still some question marks, I think, of where certain other guys fit, like a Keon Cox or Will Larkins. Will Larkins, new addition to that
Sure.
room from
Yep.
Georgia State. So those are two other guys there where I'm kind of curious to see where they kind of slot in right now. I know Keon Cox has been working in at some guard and some tackle as well. Will Larkins also has that positional versatility too. So he's another guy that Cav can kind of slide anywhere
Sure.
along the line. And then also, I'd be remiss not to mention Josiah Timateo as well,
Right.
who had been at right tackle through all of spring, has been kind of running with the second group, offensive line group at that spot with Tyler Morano practicing again. But like I could easily see Timateo potentially maybe getting a spot along that front five as
Right.
well. It may not necessarily be tackle, but he probably might slot in at one of the remaining guard spots as well too,
Right.
that's left there. So I think it's really to see like what Cav evaluates this group after the first scrimmage as to
Right.
where they're going to be at for when we get closer to the start of the season, because that's really where this group is kind of at right now. It's still a work, like Cav said, a work in progress, but they have some good moments and then they don't have some good moments, if that
Right.
makes sense. It's kind of like the quarterback play a little bit from last year, a little bit where there was some good and then there was some not so good.
Right.
And Ryan Gunderson even said that during fall camp where it looked like that group would take a step forward and then would take a step back. And I think that's what this group is kind of doing a little bit here in this year's fall camp, where they'll take a step forward, they'll look pretty solid, and then they'll kind of take a step back, not look as good or not have a strong performance in
Sure.
practice, but they're still figuring everything out. And yeah, at the end of the day, Cav has the body of work to show that he can get you a good solid front five there. And I think I trust him for picking those best five, whoever that might be at the end of the day. I think one thing's for certain, it's like who's going to be at center, and then for the other four positions, it's going to be whoever Cav thinks fits best at those four other spots.
Yeah, no, I think there's some key analysis there, and I would generally agree, with the whole breakdown on the days that I've been down there as well. And to kind of piggyback off that, I think Timotheo is going to play an important role. You can't not quantify the fact that I think minus Van Wells, and you can include Volton to an extent, there's not a lot of experience in the group, right? I mean, it's just limited, right? And then you look at somebody like Timoteo, who was I think it was 11 games played at Nevada last year, 10 started or something real close to that. Van Wells, obviously a starter. Volton obviously had some starting experience, but like Keon Cox, for example, not a lot of starting experience. Same with Will Larkins. Same, JT Hand has had some, experience over a great number of years, but, not necessarily like as consistent. So, I am very curious to kind of see how all the pieces best fit together, because I don't want Beaver fans to think, hey, the offensive line is going to be a struggle because it's lack of bodies or lack of depth. That's not the case. I think it's simply just about that cream of the crop and seeing who eventually is going to rise up, because there's a lot of guys. Like I know, for example, like Nathan Elu is a guy who's been with the program for handful of years now. Is this the year that he steps up and is kind of closer to that starting role? Or, any of those kind of fringe guys. So it's kind of interesting to see how the offensive line shakes out. And ultimately, that's going to be the big job, is not only opening up holes in the run game for Anthony Hankerson and Marcus Crosby, the Louisiana Tech transfer, and Saladin Law and Jake Reichel and Cornell Hatcher, so on and so forth. It's going to be protecting Malik Murphy. And not to say that the Beavers were poor in protecting the quarterback last year, but they probably could have been a little bit better. And I think, this year, the pressure and the onus to protect Murphy is going to be high because, again, I don't want to put this in the ethos, Ryan, but keeping the guy healthy that you have a lot invested in, literally and figuratively, like it is crucially important to Oregon State's success to keep Malik Murphy healthy this year. And when you see what Malik Murphy, Ryan, has been able to do in fall camp, like that is the biggest thing that I have seen compared to spring. I had so many people ask me in spring, how's Malik Murphy? How's Malik Murphy? We talked about it. And my honest opinion was, yeah, he was a massive upgrade from where they were last year. But he was a little interception happy in the spring. There were some interceptions thrown, and you look back at the practice reports, not every day, but there were a handful of interceptions throughout spring, and you're like, okay, maybe something to tighten up. Ryan, Malik didn't have, and I would need to check in with you just to double check the last couple days, but up until Malik's first turnover didn't happen at camp until Saturday when there was a pretty impressive Most type interception that was a result of that play that was Malik's first turnover. He's been playing clean football. He looks much more in command and in control of the offense. You can tell he's been, I mean, we heard from Gundy last week. They had to pull the players back because they were working so hard on the quarterback, receiver, tight end timing drills in the offseason. I believe Gundy's exact quote was, "They're junkies. If I don't watch them, they'll be in there too much, and I have to pull them back." So, it's almost a night and day difference, Ryan, with what Murphy's brought to the position. And I hate to be this cliche, but that old saying, style filters down. It's like Malik Murphy being this like icon, and I think that's what a starting quarterback at a college football program that has aspirations needs to be. Right? I've sat here and said time and time again, these quarterbacks that are icons, and we've seen them in the Pac-12, and we've seen that filter down. Like I wrote a story, you can check it out at BeaversEdge.com about Malik Murphy's leadership. Just in the last couple days, how all these guys have talked about how Malik would spend time with them, getting to know them in the offseason. Like, this is a really quality human being, Ryan, in addition to being an outstanding football player. And I think as long as the Beavers can protect him, he's going to be in line for a successful year because we're seeing in practice, he's making throws that guys haven't made in a Beaver uniform in a couple years, at least.
Oh yeah, definitely. And even too, I will say this in spring, like despite the interceptions, he still looked pretty comfortable in the
Mm-hmm.
system
Mm-hmm.
while learning it. So it
Sure.
was it was
I don't want to
really
say that by
kind
any means.
of
Yeah.
yeah, but that was definitely something that I kind of noticed as well. And then it's even tightened up a lot more coming to fall camp, and we've heard guys rave about his leadership as well
Yep.
too. Gundy's also raved about it as well. That was something that he kind of mentioned was missing a little bit from the quarterback room last year. And I think guys really respect him a lot, and that's something too where if you have everybody bought in to you as a leader, being the face of the franchise, basically being the
Right.
guy, like you're going to need to have everybody behind you, and I think too this offensive line group also knows that as well too. Catching up with Tyler Volton, Jacob Strand, Tyler Morano, they know the onus that's on them for protecting Malik Murphy,
Mm-hmm.
and they're 100% behind him on top of that. So I think if you have a guy there that you can rally behind, it really shows out in practice, and I think too, just for all the skill position players, in addition to talking about the offensive line, those guys know exactly what Malik brings, and they know like, hey, I can go out, run this route in this concept on this play, and Malik is going to get me the ball. In previous years, where maybe that ball doesn't come my way, just because we've not had the talent, we've not had that big play ability at the quarterback position in
Right.
previous years. So I think you're seeing the byproduct of that now in this first kind of 2 weeks, and it's really kind of shown a little bit there. And I mean, even today too, Malik was really solid during 7-on-7s. Just going through his progressions, reading
Right.
through each of first, second, third, fourth option. Couple turnovers today. I mean, one was during a team period where just a slightly underthrown ball to
Mm.
Trent Walker that was picked off, but like if Murphy had a little more air on that, I mean, Walker's
Yeah.
running into the end zone untouched
Right.
basically.
No,
So
for
that's
sure.
that's something there where it's like it's practice, those things will happen, but like it's very rare now to see that compared to spring. So that's definitely something there where it'll only get better with time, I think, especially, first scrimmage that we have coming
Right.
up on Saturday. And then as we get closer and closer to the start of the season.
Absolutely, and again, if you want to know, like I said, want to make sure to keep it teased. But yeah, if you want to know who made that interception of Murphy today, you can go ahead and check that out. BeaversEdge.com, available for our premium subscribers only. But Ryan, kind of going along with that, another story that I wrote at Beaver's Edge this week was just kind of talking about how the offense wants to have more explosive plays and how Gundy wants to move faster. And I can't tell you how many times you and I behind the scenes, folks, and this is not something that our Beaver's Edge readers or watchers would necessarily see, but it was something that Ryan and I would talk about daily in the press box as we're watching Oregon State offensively at home, or excuse me, when they played at home, and Ryan and I would be like, where's that Gundy speed? Like the Gundy kind of explosiveness. And based on what he said last week, and again, you can check out that notebook that we wrote at BeaversEdge.com, we kind of dove into not only is Murphy, Ryan, going to unlock a lot of the skill position, maybe I'll be honest, the skill position production that wasn't there outside of Trent Walker. Like let's not, dress up as they say like poor production. And it's you go back and look like when Anthony Hankerson is your second leading receiver by a number of catches, you know the passing game struggled last year. And that's checkdowns, right? So again, Trent Walker, way to be, man. Like, he needed a breakout year to be where he is in his final year, and you got to give it to him. But outside of Trent, and we now know that Darius was dealing with some injuries, and Taz and David and some of the young guys, that card were just kind of still on the come up. But now, as we flash forward, Ryan, you have Murphy under center. I would argue the running back room is better this year. I really liked it with Jam Griffin and Hank last year before Jam went down. And then obviously Salah's breakout in camp. But the running back room this year, like I mentioned to you, you could afford a guy to get nicked up, have an ankle, have a this, have a that, and be okay. Like that room has got great depth now. Even when you're talking Corday Glass and Skylar Jackson, the incoming freshmen, they've even caught my eye a couple times. I want to say Carnell Hatcher has even broke a couple runs and been, a guy who's been there as well. And then at receiver and tight end, they overhauled the tight end position. Riley Williams, Jackson Bowers, even Cooper Jensen to an effect has been, shown moments of being great receivers. I think Bryce Caulfield is an effective two-way guy. He's going to show you a lot more this year with a featured role. And then you get to the receivers. Like I said, Trent Walker. Is it reasonable to expect, an even another level from Trent? I'm not sure if you kind of spread the ball around more, but I see 1,000-yard season from Trent, and I think the biggest X factors are going to be, can Darius Clemens be Darius Clemens of Boise State, right? And whether it be, can that third receiver step up? Whether that's Taz, Zach Card, David Wells, Malachi Durant. There are a whole Eddie Freeoff. There's a whole bunch of names I could even throw in there, Ryan, because we've seen a lot of guys make plays at receiver, and you even noted Zach Card today. So, I still really think while Taz has the inside track, that third receiver is still up for grabs. And, we've kind of been seeing these receivers kind of go at it a little bit. You can just tell Murphy has elevated that play of skill position. It's going to be so much easier to see the offense move faster, move more efficiently, have the chunk plays like Ryan. I don't even have to squint to see it. You can just see it. It's going to be more efficient with Malik Murphy leading the charge back there.
Oh, I know. And yeah, the explosive plays thing. I remember when Gundy first came in, first time we talked to him, was
Yep.
like, this is going to be a fun offense. And then I was like, wait, where is it? And
Like
now
you're
with
like,
Murphy,
oh,
now with Murphy under center, it's like, okay, maybe this is the inklings of this fun offense that was promised a year ago, and
hmm
it's really much a different dimension that I think that will have opposing defenses having to respect that instead of crowding up the box and trying to stop the run. Because I think if you're any opposing team that faced the Beavers last year, you knew what this team was going to do. And it was pretty easy to kind of game plan around that just because you knew that there was no real explosive threat in the passing game outside of Trent Walker.
right.
And And I think now, with the bevy of weapons and having Darius Clemens healthy, having Taz Reddicks have a solid two first weeks of fall camp, at the third receiver spot playing the slot, and then other guys too, and Zach Card, Malachi Durant, like you mentioned, Eddie Freeoff too, having some good plays kind of here and there. I think really those guys are definitely, I think, in that mix for that third receiver spot. But I wouldn't be surprised though to see like one way or another any of those guys get some playing time. Like whether it's like kind of a rotational piece here and there for switching out that third receiver. I mean, Taz gives you a different look as well too at that receiver spot. Like Taz can play outside and he can also play in the slot.
Right.
So there's probably, I would say, a world in where you could have both Taz Reddicks and Zach Card on the
Right.
field at the same time. And that amount of speed is definitely something where that definitely gives you those explosive plays, that's for sure. And being
Right.
able to have a guy to take off the top of a defense really helps this passing attack and also to generate those explosive plays, which Murphy can get you the ball downfield. We've seen it few times in practice as well. So he's not afraid to take those deep shots. And really, I would say too, on top of that, like this is I think another year where maybe the tight ends get a little more involved. And I know we've said that before, and there was kind of an onus last year where it didn't really happen.
Happened. Yeah.
Yeah, come to fruition, but like you have a guy in Bryce Caulfield who is a good receiver as well as being a blocker at that tight end spot. Riley Williams too is probably your 1B tight end
Right.
outside of Caulfield, and there's probably some moments where they're probably both going to be on the field together. Jackson Bowers as well is another solid option in addition to Cooper Jensen. Maybe you have a T-Rex package with four tight ends,
You're
which I
right.
know Will
Right.
Heck is really adamant about trying to get out there, which I will pound the table for that package any day of the week. Um, Having four tight ends out there, and then even two, getting the running backs more involved as well, which I know Ray Pickering, running backs coach, has really kind of emphasized that in the spring, and that's something where I think you'll see Hankerson be a little more involved in that than he was probably last year due
Sure.
to a lack of explosiveness at the receiver spot, and then also having Salah involved in that. And then Marquise Crosby, too, is another guy that I've seen a few times kind of be able to be that kind of change of pace, third down back out of the backfield, catching a
Hmm.
few passes from Malik today in practice. So you got a good stable of weapons basically to surround Malik Murphy. I think it's now just, putting everything together, getting, a game environment in the scrimmage on Saturday, and then just seeing how
Right.
everything kind of goes in an actual game environment when you open up the season week one.
Actually, you're absolutely right, and I'd be remiss, Ryan, if I didn't mention as well, because I know Beaver fans would probably be curious. Jimmy Valson could also work into that
Yeah.
mix too. We obviously caught up with Jimmy recently, still not back to being on the field, but Jimmy's, he's had a journey of getting back, Ryan, and it basically sounded like that interview. It won't, he didn't want to put a timetable on it, but I'd be surprised if we didn't see him at some point, and. Again, dare I say, before the injury last year, Jimmy was their top returning receiver from, I believe that was the 2023 team entering 2024. So I still think if he can get healthy and back on the field, and it sounds like he's making really good progress and very close, he could be in that mix as well. But yeah, overall, like I said, I think the Oregon State offense is in a really good, shape compared to where they were a year ago. It's amazing how a quarterback can make everything else look so much better, but yet the Beavers are finding out, Ryan. It's like I'll share my experience with the fine folks on the Edge podcast. It's like a car repair, right? You get what you pay for, and I think it's kind of like at quarterback too, Ryan. And this new wave of NIL and everything else, you maybe get what you pay for. And we know, just with numbers that have been floated out there, Oregon State cranked it up a lot for Malik Murphy compared to what they had a year ago. And I think that's going to, definitely yield some stronger results. But overall, like I said, we'll be checking in on the offense after the scrimmage on Saturday. Make sure to keep it locked, BeaversEdge.com, as Ryan and I will be there providing you guys complete coverage breakdown. We'll see where the Beavers are at about the halfway point. But let's switch gears, Ryan, for the second half of the podcast and dive into the defense. Trent Bray's defense. Now, I keep waiting. I'm like, Oh yeah, we're gonna talk to the defensive coordinator. Oh yeah, we already did. He's the head coach. So yeah, Oregon State now obviously led again on defense by Trent Bray. The early returns from that from the players, Ryan, have been very promising. You know, we asked a couple defensive players last week, and it seems like the players are really excited to have Bray maybe. I think it was when we were talking to Cy Vidrale last week. He kind of mentioned like, yeah, I would see Trent Bray, but if I really wanted to specifically like talk to him, I had to like kind of go out of my way to like go talk to him a little bit. Now he's like, oh yeah, he's here all the time. I can talk to him, and I think the little nuances like that maybe the fans don't see behind the scenes is going to be what's really key to having Trent Bray back. You know, obviously we know there's going to be more defensive aggression, more rushing the passer, those kind of things, but let's just kind of set the stage. Outside of a few guys that have been out, and we can say that moving forward, we'll be keeping tabs and looking for a clarification from Trent Bray on TJ Crandall, the West Virginia transfer, has been out the last couple practices. Made a post on Instagram. We'll be checking in with Trent Bray to kind of see how long that timetable is. But outside of that, Ryan, and a few other guys, again, we have a comprehensive list of guys who did not practice at Beaver's Edge. Ryan and I do a great job of nailing down who's there and who's not. Few guys were still waiting to get healthy. You know, the Takari Hickles, the Kels Howards, the Nick Norrises, so to speak. A few guys here and there, but for the most part, Ryan, the Beaver defense is almost fully out of the nightmare that was the injured season last year. And again, I'll sit here and say that was about as injured as I've ever seen a football team on one side of the ball. It was bad.
Oh yeah, I mean when you're going into the season missing five defensive linemen
Yep.
to start the year for
Not
that's
even
not
game
good.
injuries. I mean,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
it's not even good at all. It's like I didn't envy Keith Hayward and Coach Tugaki in that
Yep.
situation last year. I mean, if you ask any defensive coordinator that year to deal with that, that's probably something where they're like, "Hey, look, I
Yeah.
can't work my magic to save
Yeah.
you there." But yeah, definitely a lot more depth along that defensive line. That's definitely something that they went out and addressed in the portal in the offseason. Kai Wallen is really impressed.
Yeah.
Walker Harris as well too. Two guys that they picked up in the portal have been really big impact guys here so far as well. I would probably expect them to rotate a fair amount in that kind of middle spot, and then also too. Tavita Pomey, Thomas Collins, Jacob
Yep.
Schuster have flashed along the interior. TyG Hill has also flashed along the interior, especially yesterday in practice as well, and even today too. On top of that, and then linebackers, pretty solid grouping there of guys. You have Rayshawn Davis. Dexter Foster's put on some weight to kind of
Yep.
handle the responsibilities of that position, but he's looked really good too. Aiden Sullivan has also been a guy that's stood out from addition from last year. Really good at that inside linebacker spot, very sideline to sideline kind of player. Micaiah Tongue back, healthy, has looked really good to running with that second team unit. But I think in a Bray led defense, you're going to see those guys rotate as well. That's definitely something where like Dexter Foster and Rajon Davis may not necessarily be in there every single snap, but they're definitely going to rotate at some point, which I know has been a staple of kind of that Trent Bray style defense. And even too in the secondary, we've seen guys kind of rotate through each and every spot in the secondary.
Right.
Tyrese Ivy's gotten in there and kind of that nickel spot outside of Cy as well. And then also Trey Glassberg getting some run with the ones and twos in fall
Absolutely.
camp. So another guy that's impressed, and even Jaleel Tucker getting some run with the ones today in practice. So really deep, really talented. It's hard to see a world where I think there are guys going to be left off. I think they're going to be more rotational than
Sure.
anything else, and I think like you can be in a better spot than where you were a year ago, where you were hit hard in the secondary, you were hit hard along the defensive line, having to bring over Andy Alfieri and Dylan Sikorsky to fill up spots there. Obviously, Andy now fully transitioned over to outside linebacker. But like that's something there where I think you can definitely say it's a night and day difference, and you can
Right.
see it in practice. You can see the aggression, you can see the intensity that's going on with having Bray now back at the defensive coordinator spot. It reminds me of Simon Sandberg, who said when Bray took over as defensive coordinator for the first time, it allows us to just like his style of defense allows us to go play,
Hmm.
not think about it, and be aggressive, which you see a lot of that now, especially through 2 weeks of fall camp. You saw it in the spring as well too, but it's definitely something there where they're throwing everything at the offensive line in practice, and it's only going to make them better too. Which I know we
Right.
talked about the offensive line earlier, but like the stunts and pressures that they're running will only improve that group too. So it kind of works kind of both ways a little bit having Bray as the head coach and defensive coordinator, but overall the returns have been really good, and I think uh, Beaver fans will be, not too, I would say not too worried that Bray can, handle those
Yeah.
responsibilities and head coaching duties too.
Right, and again, Bray even mentioned as much and highlighted, what Rob Akey has brought to the team in that regard, and in addition to, Danny Langsdorf as well. So the Beavers obviously have some more support staffers who can kind of help Trent Bray with some of the more head coach duties. Again, I think something that's super underrated, going to be able to allow him to have much more time. And to your point, Ryan, I agree on the standouts. Dexter Foster, that was a big takeaway from day one when Trent Bray dropped how many pounds he added, and just again, I double down. I think that kid's going to be really special. And I think it's hard because I've been particularly impressed. Two players that have really caught my eye this spring. One, defensive line, Tavita Pomee. Like he was big last year, but hearing from Trent Bray that dropping 10 pounds allowed him to move faster, be more athletic. There was a play on Saturday, Ryan, where I wrote about it in the report, where he just blew up like the offensive line and was in the backfield. Like his size, his ability to kind of just road grade through there like a bulldozer. I think, he's going to turn out to be a steal. And again, I go back, I think this is what Oregon saw when Oregon recruited him. Again, he was obviously a duck out of high school and played there for a year, didn't crack their rotation and transferred. But you're like, okay, I'm seeing why this guy could have fit in a place like Oregon on that defensive line because his talent is off the charts, and I really think he's going to be in line for a big nose tackle plug up the middle kind of a year. And then in the back end, you mentioned Tyrese Ivy. I've been impressed with him, but really like what I've seen from Jaheim Patterson, Skylar Thomas, like that whole safety trio. Jaheim Patterson was a guy I really started to like as the year went along last year. He's just so tall, intimidating presence there in the back end. He's a hard hitter as well. Same with
Oh yeah.
Skylar Thomas plays the game with violence, and that's kind of what you want. And to Ryan's point too, I'd also would highlight Kai Wallen. I think from what I've seen from him, the Nebraska transfer, former JUCO product, he really caught my eye. Really aggressive. For Beaver fans out there who want a comparison, a little before Ryan's time, but I'd say Dylan Wynn is a decent comparison for Kai Wallen. Just a really just smart edge rusher that plays really, really hard, and we could just tell day one when we talked to him, he's saying all the right things and fits the offense or fits the defense, I should say, extremely well. I'm excited for him too, and as Ryan mentioned, guy like Thomas Collins, all the guys we mentioned on the defensive line, like I was really excited for Nick Norris before he got injured last year. Like, what does he bring after his production at Northern Colorado? So there's still Ryan, and we'll kind of wrap up with this. We've liked what we've seen, but there's still some question marks that could make this defense and offense even better by, say, the start of the season.
Oh yeah, like, and that's really something there where if you have Nick Norris, Kels Howard, and Takari Hickle
Yeah,
healthy, I mean, the interior of that line is even stronger than what it currently is and what we've seen so far through the practices that we've been able to see at fall camp.
totally.
But like, that's only, kind of TBD. You got to wait on guys to get healthy, kind of similar to with the offensive line as well, waiting on JT Hand, Tyler Volton to
Right.
practice in a significant manner. Jacob Strand and Tyler Morano have seen some snaps in team periods, but that's only something there where the more that they get under their belt
Right.
after rehabbing injuries, the better they're going to be at those spots as well too. And then kind of just seeing where, other kind of additions to that room kind of shake out. Nathan Elu, Keon Cox, Will Larkin. So yeah, it's really like I would say like once you get those guys back, I think you get a better kind of gauge of where those units are really at and how much better that they can be from what they've already shown you through 2 weeks so far of practice.
Absolutely. And again, I think, like Ryan said, the fall camp scrimmage on Saturday is going to be pretty telling. And again, Oregon State has one more open practice tomorrow on Thursday. Again, we'll be posting this podcast, so stay tuned to everything we got coming in from Thursday's practice. And then Friday will be an off day. Well, off day for us, closed practice for Oregon State as they get ready for the scrimmage on Saturday. And again, stay tuned to Ryan, Harlan, and myself as we'll both be live at the scrimmage. We'll have a video breakdown, interviews. We'll get to ask Trent Brace some key questions on follow-up updates. And again, make sure to stay locked into BeaversEdge.com. Most comprehensive place for all your practice reports, interviews, notebooks. It is the place to be for Oregon State content. And again, we got that awesome deal working right now where you can sign up for BeaversEdge.com and or for $1 for your first week and get the Athletic included in your membership. Again, for Ryan Harlan, this is Brenden Slaughter signing off on this edition of the Edge Podcast. We will talk to you guys later in the week.